Hey everyone, sorry for the gap between the last video and this one. I was working on today's video and I was in the editing stage when I got some bad news. A family member was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer that has spread into her liver, so I took some personal days to process it. We're still waiting to find out what's next, so in the meantime, I'll be back to my scheduled content. I just wanted to quickly explain my absence before jumping into my next video. I may also have some brief absences coming up, depending on what happens next. Forgive the serious tone of this blurb. The rest of the video will be of normal tone and pace, as I had recorded everything prior to receiving this news, and I just needed to edit it. I just wanted to let you all know about the situation in case I have to suddenly take another absence. In today's video, I am building the landlord's ultimate dream, the self-evicting apartment complex. Greetings friends, Khaios here. One of my viewers recommended that I try building a house that won't let people live in it. It is totally a valid house, but it is constantly trying to evict its tenants. I've tried my best to find that comment, but it got lost in the sea of other comments, but regardless, I'm going to be building that today. But I gave it some thought, and I feel that an apartment complex would want to be self-evicting even more than just a house. So today I'm going to be building a self-evicting apartment complex, the landlord's dream. Real quick before we do, this channel is on the road to 400,000 subscribers. My goal for this year is to hit that milestone by the end of 2025. We've seen quite a bit of growth since the start of the year, and I really appreciate it. We're on track to hit the goal, so if you're enjoying my videos and you'd like to help the channel and community grow, please consider subscribing. If you already are, make sure that you have notifications turned on so you are more likely to see my videos when they go live. Thank you all very much for helping this channel grow, and I look forward to celebrating the next major milestone with you all. So let's talk about today's build. What exactly is a self-evicting house? Well, this build will be completely valid in terms of Terraria housing rules. You'll be able to set your spawn point in it, and NPCs will be able to move in, but that doesn't mean you'll be able to actually use the house. This building will try and remove you from it whenever you are inside, and it will try to prevent you from getting back in. I've already made an extremely lethal house, so it's not going to kill your character. If you want to see that house, be sure to check out my most recent videos. This house will find non-lethal means of removing its occupants. Before we get to that, we first have to have a house, so let's get started. Recently, I've had quite a few comments requesting that I build some more modern structures, as I typically build in medieval and occasionally in sci-fi, but today, let's do modern. I really do appreciate getting feedback and ideas from y'all, so please keep the comments rolling. You'll never know when your idea will get spun into my next video, like this one. For this build, I'm going to try and set up a city apartment. This is dangerously close to a wooden box NPC hotel, I know, but I'm confident that I can make it stand out in an interesting way. For now, I'm going to be using red brick throughout the build. Ebonstone brick will add accent points throughout the structure. I'm not certain I'll stick around with this material combination in the end. I'm going to play around with materials a bit more before making the final decision, but I've got to start somewhere and I wanted to get the outline going. The first floor is going to be a lobby. At first, I wanted the center to only have an elevator shaft running up it instead of a stairwell, but now I think I should actually have both, so I'm going to expand the building to make more room for that. I'm also feeling like the rooms are a bit on the small side, so I'll expand those tenant rooms. Now to swap out some materials. I'm blending in some Creme brick with the red brick to roughen the texture up a little bit. I decided to alternate the Ebonstone bricks every other block instead of just doing the corners. I'm going to darken up the rooftop for now and have a slight overhang to vary the monotonous shape. I don't want the floors and ceiling to be red brick, so I'm going to swap it out for stone slab in the stairwell and gray stucco for the ceilings in each of the apartment units as well as the lobby. The floors will be ashwood. Now the outline is complete. Moving on to walls, I want to start with the windows. I originally had some rich mahogany fences by the glass, but I'm changing my mind on that. Let's instead go with Titan stone wall. Now, unlike fences, walls extend beyond the width of a tile, so these walls are going to be poking out slightly. It's not what I want, so I'm going to line the edges of these walls with echo wall. The use of echo wall here is imperative. If I was to use any other wall and then echo coat it, then it won't fix the overhanging wall issue. When you echo coat a block or wall, the game acts as if the tile isn't there at all. All of the surrounding blocks and walls adjust their texture to act as if there's nothing next to them. But that isn't the case for echo wall. Echo wall is invisible, but the surrounding blocks and walls act like there is something there even though you can't see it. That means walls will try to blend with the echo wall, which removes their overhang. And that's how we take care of little issues like this. Now, let's get to building walls within the complex. Firstly, I'm going to knock out some of these blocks. Originally, I was going to build a functional stairwell, but I want this building to feel like it has some depth, that it is more than one layer in thickness, so I decided the stairwell will be in the background. So let's place the walls on the first floor, the lobby. The stairwell and elevator segment of each of the above floors will also carry that same wall pattern to them. A line of adamantite beam wall lines the floor that has been painted deep sky blue, with gray painted dynasty wall above it. I wanted the blue segments to be a bit thicker, but not 2 blocks thick, so I'm going to echo coat the walls right above the adamantite. As I mentioned earlier, that means the game acts like there's nothing there, which allows the adamantite wall to extend upwards and the dynasty wall above it to extend downwards, thus allowing this to expand half a tile in one direction without invalidating the room. An accent of white painted boreal wood lines the ceiling. Moving on to the apartments, I want each room to be styled a little differently than the last. I know landlords typically don't want you to paint or put up wallpaper and so on, but I don't want the building to be too boring. Plus, if everybody's getting evicted, maybe that's one of the reasons. The first room is going to have a really tacky design with squiggles wallpaper, lining the top and the bottom of the room with boreal wood. The second room is meant to look like it's just painted blue with a trim on the top with fancy gray wallpaper. The next room up has purely exposed brick, as I thought it might be nice to have at least one room that matches the exterior of the building. The last room is what I would imagine to be the most plain room that isn't brick, and that would probably have been the standard of every room if I wanted to make them uniform. This is simply white dynasty and boreal wood walls. So we've got all the walls in place, but I mentioned wanting to make this building feel like there was more depth to it. So how am I going to do that? Let's grab some doors and place 2 of them down. If we can make it look like these are sitting in the background, then it's going to feel like there are rooms behind these doors. One option to do this easily would be to use an echo block above the door, then open it. It'll look like it's closed in the background. This works, but if you were to ever try and look behind that door, you would quickly have that immersion broken, as you would just have standard walls behind it. If instead we place some dark walls behind the door and paint them black or shadow, this will make it look like there's a dark room behind it. But we only want it on the far side of the door, not directly behind the door itself, as we will be echo coating those walls instead. The reason we are echo coating them is because if we use black painted walls here as well, it would stick out from the side of the door when it's closed. But if we use echo coating, then the space between the dark and the light is exactly where the door is, and as such it is hidden. When we use echo coating in this way, there is a little overhang with the wall directly above the door, which we can get rid of with echo coating. Unfortunately, this leaves a line that looks a little bit out of place. So instead of using echo block to place the door, I'm going to use boreal wood so that it hides that strange line away. I feel like this works, as it looks like the top of a door frame. Now I can just carry this door pattern to all of the other rooms really quickly. In the entrance for each apartment unit, we'll be using standard doors with white paint, as I feel it fits them best. The entrance and the exit to the lobby will have glass doors. Now, let's take a look at getting between the floors. Firstly, I'm going to build some stairwells into the background. Let's start with a frame made out of dynasty wood. This is going to be a stairway, so I want it to look like it's going further into the background as it goes higher up the stairs. That means I'm going to paint the bottom segment of both the walls and the platforms white, with the layer above it being gray, then black, and if I wanted a tall enough stairwell, shadow would be on the top. Then the platforms will get actuated. The choice of platform will change the look of the stairs, and not all of them feel like a great fit, so in this case I'm going to use stone platform. I don't need the doorway to be 4 tiles tall, so let's shave that down by 1. Now onto the floor above. I need 2 doorways. The one on the left will be the stairwell up, and the one on the right is going to be the exit from the previous floor's stairs. The thought here is that you go through the stairs on the left, upwards, then you hit the end of the building, you have to turn right, and then come back the other way, thus continuing walking back towards the camera, exiting on the right doorway. I'll continue this up to the top 2 floors. Next, it's time for the elevators. These are going to be using frames made out of team block rather than wood. The doors for the elevator are going to be adamantite beam wall, as it feels like a pretty good metal sliding door. Echo coating will be used through the center of it to help create a line where the 2 doors would meet. And to make the elevator functional, all I need is a teleporter in front of each of the elevators. I can actuate them so they don't impede player movement, and echo coat them so they can't be seen. After I quickly build 3 more elevators for the other floors, I can add some switches and wire them up. Now we have fully functioning elevators. It's time to make these houses look a bit more livable and get some furniture in. I want to start by making sure that the doors are opening in the right direction. This is a more modern house, and typically doors on modern houses will open towards the inside of the building or the apartment unit. There are several reasons for that, including not giving access to the hinges from the outside, as a locked door doesn't really matter if you could just take it off its hinges. So let's make sure these doors open in the correct direction for this house, though honestly it's the opposite of how I would typically like my doors in Terraria opening. I would prefer them to swing outwards so that way enemies can't break them in. Regardless, I will achieve this by making sure something is by the door on the side that I don't want it swinging towards. This could be furniture or an actuated echo block. Next, I'm going to quickly decorate the interiors of each apartment unit. They are really small spaces and it won't take too long, so let's just wave my magical wand and... there we go. Down into the lobby, I want to have some small mailbox slots, which I'm going to make with wire bulbs. I also want to add a few more doors down here, which could possibly be an office, another apartment unit, closet, or something along those lines. A few lights in the hallways and some decorative plants, and the apartment's interior is done. I feel like the exterior could use some work though. Let's start with the rooftop, which I'm going to recolor, and I'm going to shorten the trims on the edges. I'll also build some ventilation ducts and some antennas out of tin and copper plating, pinwheels, and a rich mahogany wooden and bamboo fences. Moving on to the sides of the building, I want to have some fire escape rails with some tin plating, iron fence, echo wall, and bamboo fence. The building is fully decorated now, but it wouldn't be a chaos build without a bit of landscape. Since this is a city, I figured why not build a roadway with the background building on the other side, and a small backyard on the right side of the apartment complex. I already leveled out the left side, but I need to raise the land on the right. So with that done, let's get started on the street. The sidewalk will be stone accent slab, while the roads block choice is really gonna blow your mind. Asphalt. I know, I'm really thinking outside of the box here. A yellow painted team platform will act as one of those little reflective road divider tabs that you see sticking out of the painted lines on the street, since we can't actually see the painted street lines from this angle. I also want to have a traffic light hanging over the street, so I'll be using palladium column on either side of the road to create 2 tall metal posts. A line of bone platform will connect the two. In the center, I'm going to build a 4-direction hanging traffic light using copper plating, golden platforms, and pink and purple silly balloons. For now, I'll actuate everything except for the red light so that it stands out a bit brighter, making it look like the red light is turned on. Ropes run through platforms now, so I can directly connect the ropes that are holding up the traffic lights as well as the street name sign to the bone platform. To do this, I need to have a rope on top of the platform as well as below it. When I echo coat the topmost rope, it'll hide that away, but it'll still leave the visual effect of the rope traveling through the platform. So that's how I'm going to achieve this effect. Next up, the light that will be overhanging the street will simply be some white painted slime platform. If this build was intended to be viewed at night, all you need to do is echo coat a few white torches that can really light the area up. This is just for visual effect. A couple of trash cans will decorate the right sidewalk, while a manhole cover will be on the left. Above and to the left of that will be another thinner large pole with some steampunk platforms connecting it to the larger one, as well as some purple rain wallpaper. On top of those, I'm slapping down a pizza poster painting that was made by JC Panini. I'll go ahead and tie up these decorations. I still need to build the decorative building on the left side of the street, as well as the backyard for the apartment complex, but I'll save those for the final look of the build. First, let's talk about how this house will be self-evicting its tenants. We have 4 different rooms that I want to evict their tenants. I actually want to do something slightly different with each of the rooms. I've been careful to consider how these rooms would eventually evict you while I was decorating them, so the decorations are placed in such a way that they will not prevent me from trying to remove you from the apartment unit. Starting at the top right, we are going to use echo blocks to great effect. But since we can't see them, let's quickly put on some Spectre goggles just for a moment so we can see what's happening. Just ignore the jankiness of the build while they're on. A line of echo blocks will run from one end of the room to the other just above the player's head. Then a second line will be placed right beneath that. I can't place them where the doors and the lamp are, but I think that's okay. I also need to place 2 blocks right outside the window. Let's hammer all of the blocks in the second row in this direction, except for the block right next to the entrance, which will be facing the opposite direction. All of these second row blocks will need an actuator, except for the one at the window, and I'll go ahead and actuate them. Now, after I wire them up and while you're moving around the house, the building will send you flying out of the window. There is a chance that you'll get caught in the window, depending on where you're standing when the hoik grabs you. This can be fixed by sloping the middle block of the window to the same shape as the rest of the blocks. And honestly, I feel like this can make it look like the window is cracked, so we're going to leave it this way. Moving down to the hazy room of the funky tenants that blare music all night long, I'm going to be employing a twist on a classic landlord eviction tactic: locking the tenants out. There isn't much room within this apartment because it's extremely decorated, but that's okay. All we need is a single block and a single echo platform. I'll place a block right here behind the front door and slope it in this direction. Then I'll block swap it with the echo platform. With the Spectre goggles on, it'll look like a perfectly normal platform, but it is now a hoik. When you try to walk into the apartment, you will be instantly shoved out due to that hoik. Remember, this platform will be completely hidden from view, so with that single block, the tenant is effectively evicted. Next floor down, we're going to up the wiring a little bit. First though, I want to go into the lobby and shave off the ceiling, removing all of the gray stucco block and replacing it with gray stucco wall. This will look similar, but it will allow me to place something else in that spot, namely teleporters. I'll place down some echo platforms, then some teleporters on top. I can actuate them and echo code them so that they don't block player movement. After I wire them up, they will teleport anyone that's moving around the apartment outside of the building. Yes, they can teleport you even if you're not standing directly on top of the teleporter. In fact, they can still grab you if you're up to 3 tiles above them. Let's head across the hallway, and we've got the 4th apartment unit. I wanted to try something completely different with this one. I'll start by removing the tree just outside of the apartment unit and placing a row of bubbles in its place, which I will echo coat. Moving inside of the apartment, I'm going to place an inlet pump on the floor next to the bed. Next, a row of echo platforms will be placed above the bed. On top of those, as well as over the background doors, I'll lay down some outlet pumps. All of these pumps will be linked to a reservoir of shimmer somewhere off screen. Finally, I will echo coat the pumps. When the player moves around the room, the idea is that the pumps will drench the tenant in shimmer, sending them through the floor back into the lobby, then quickly draining the shimmer back out of the room. I totally forgot that shimmer breaks the lamp, so I'll just remove that and place an actuated echo block there instead. Anyway, I thought this was a fun idea for the room. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do all of the wiring that I mentioned, as well as build the decorative building across the street, the apartment's backyard, then we will jump to the final look of the self-evicting apartment complex. Here is the final look of the exterior. We've now got a little pizza shop across the street, so you can go eat your woes away after being evicted. The traffic light is also functioning now. I even made the red light take a bit longer than the green light does, as that's usually the kind of lights that I get stuck at. On the other side of the building, I went with a small, simple backyard for the apartment complex, as I imagined there wouldn't be a ton of space there, and if I was going to keep expanding the city, there would be another building immediately on the other side of that fence. Now, let's see how these self-evicting rooms came out. The shimmer room gets rid of you extremely effectively, as does the teleporter room, which safely evicts you straight into incoming traffic. I made a couple of tweaks to the decoration of the next floor up to fit a logic sensor in place, but it still keeps you out just as effectively as before. And finally, as you walk into the Hoik room, it quickly shoves you right outside of the window. No wonder they can't keep it repaired. And that will complete the self-evicting apartment complex. Keep the wacky build ideas coming. I always love to hear what you all would like to see me build. If you enjoyed this video, please help us reach our goal of 400,000 subscribers by the end of the year. A huge thank you to my biggest supporter for the month. Sarcasm not intended. And be sure to check out my channel artist, MythicalWater, linked in the description below. Thank you all very much for watching. Be back soon with a new video. Happy building.